Good day, everyone. My name is Travelin Amas, your teachers for today's video. So today, we will talk about redundancy errors and sentence correction. This is one of the errors that is really hard to spot. And today, we will be able to identify a sentence that has a redundancy error. So at the end of this video, we will try some exercises. But before that, let's have first our objectives. At the end of the discussion, the student should be able to define redundancy, recognize and identify errors and redundancy, rewrite commonly used redundant expression. So, let's go to our lesson proper. What is wrong with the sentence? Nehemiah asks, "Sir, would you repeat the question again, please?" When you encounter a question like this, do you really know what is wrong with this sentence? Most people would look at the tenses and subject verb agreement, and eventually they will think nothing is wrong. They will say no error. Let's look at it carefully. If you notice, letter A is correct because it used past tense and comma. Letter B is correct for using apostrophes and commas. Putting a question mark in the end is correct in letter D. Everything is correct except for the letter C. What is wrong with that? Let me show you why it is wrong. The word repeat means to say something again. And when we say again, we also mean to say repeat. This is what we call a redundancy error. The question is, what is a redundancy error? Let's define the word redundant. So according to Merriam-Webster, redundant is an adjective that means repeating something else and therefore unnecessary. Exceeding what is necessary or normal means you said you exceeded already and you're saying it again and again. When it comes to English grammar, redundancy is not good if anything doesn't add to the sentence, means it is not needed. If it is not needed, then we need to remove it. In other words, it is a repetition of words, phrases, sentences, paragraphs, or ideas. Redundancy is when we use two or more words together that mean the same thing. In essence, we are just using an overflow of words or many words to make our point. A lot of times, the modifier's meaning is contained in the word it modifies. So, to further understand, let's have an example. What do you think is wrong with the sentence? There is the feeling that the longer the sentence, the better it is. And also, the longer the sentence, the more intelligent the person is. But in the same case, the longer the sentence means the more errors might be encountered. In this lesson, it is not how long a sentence is, but it must be understandable. So here, less is more the benefit of reducing redundancies and writing is that it helps make our writing more clear and concise. Let's take a look at our example. Don't allow and give permission to your girlfriend to go on a friend's date. It says, don't allow and give permission. What do we mean by allow? When we say the word allow, we mean to give permission, right? So, allow and give permission mean the same thing. Basically, they are equivalent. When you allow someone to do something, meaning you are giving permission. Since they have the same meaning, you have to choose between the two and remove one of them. Instead of saying allow and give permission, you need to take out one of these, either allow or give permission. What should it be? So we have two options either. Don't allow your girlfriend to go on a friend's date, or don't give permission to your girlfriend to go on a friend's date. Here are some examples of redundancy in English grammar that we should avoid. One of them is absolute certain. Instead of using absolute certain, use certain. Someone who is certain or sure is already a without doubt, and you must abandon the word absolute in such usage. Another one is basic fundamentals or basic essentials. Fundamentals and essentials are by nature elementary. So, remove the word basic from each phrase because mm, basic means essential. And result. A result is something that occurs at the end, so omit and as a modifier of result. Free gift. Give is by definition free. So free is unnecessary because when you give a gift, it means to say that it is free. And when you give something for free, means to say your gift are a blessing. New innovations. When we say innovation, we already mean new. Revert back. Something that reverts, return to an earlier state. The word back is not needed when we use the word revert. Unintended mistake. A mistake is an inadvertently erroneous action. Lack of intention is implicit, or in other words, it is unintentional. Added bonus. A bonus is an extra feature, so the word added is redundant. Foreign imports. Imports are products that originate in other countries, so their foreign nature is implicit and the word foreign is redundant. Unexpected surprise. No surprise is expected, so the modifier unexpected is excessive. So, we are going to identify and write commonly used redundant expressions. Same exact. This is very popular. Instead of saying the girl was wearing the same exact blouse yesterday, it should be written as the girl was wearing the same blouse yesterday. Reverse back. Reverse back the car. Hmm. This sentence is wrong. It should be reverse back the car. It means to move backward. And this one is very popular. You hear it in church, you hear it in school, you hear it on the workplace, or you hear it on road. A pleasant good morning to you. That is wrong. A pleasant good morning to you. A pleasant good morning, good afternoon to you. A pleasant good night to you. That is incorrect. It should be a pleasant morning to you because pleasant means good. So, here are more examples of redundant expressions. There are many expressions that we may use knowingly, and I know that you commonly use when speaking and in writing. These are just a few words of them. If you know more, don't be shy and you can go ahead and share them. My personal opinion. Null and void. Me personally. Collaborate together. Lower down. Each and every. Merge together. Final conclusion. Proceed forwards. Now, let's have an exercises. Can you spot the redundancy in the sentences? Let's reveal the answers to number 1. I can think of 1,000 scenes and places in the past history I'd visit. So the answer here is past and history. Notice that the words have the same meaning because history is already past, and past means it is now a history. Number two, in the coming future, we will all have it. The answer is coming and future because the future also means coming after the present. And lastly, in number three, the small dwarf was surprised by the appearance of an enormous giant. The answer is small dwarf, enormous, and giant because dwarf itself is small and giant itself is enormous or big. And that is, guys. I hope you learned a lot and let's all say bye bye to redundancies. Now, let's talk about parallelism. But before that, let me show you a picture. Can you tell me what you have noticed from each of the pictures? Do they show similarities in ideas or characters? How about their difference? Consider the following images. What do they have in common? Of course, all the three remaining pictures refers to humans, and the other one is an animal. So it was different from the three pictures. Notice that the three are the same, and that is how parallelism was. When you start learning the English language, you start with the words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. Gradually, you move onto the sentence structure, tenses, and active and passive voice. Once you have familiarized yourself with these grammar topics, you should learn another important topic that will help you write well constructed and meaningful sentences, and that is parallelism. Through our discussion, you will be introduced to the meaning and definition of parallelism and the rules to be followed when writing parallel ideas, phrases, clauses, or sentences. In addition to this, our discussion will provide you with examples of parallelism to help you have in depth in understanding. The question is, what is parallelism? The word parallel is an adjective that refers to the quality of something being placed side by side, and parallelism refers to the state of something being parallel or in relation to another entity. In English grammar, the term parallelism defined as the two or more phrases or clauses in a sentences that have the same grammatical structure. It makes the sentence clear, balanced, and meaningful. The Oxford Dictionary of Literary Terms defines parallelism as the arrangement of similarly constructed clauses, sentences, or verse lines in a pairing or other sequence suggesting some correspondence between them. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, parallelism is the use of matching sentence structure, phrases or longer parts so as to balance ideas of equal importance. Another definition of parallelism as put forward by the Collins Dictionary is as follows. The repetition of syntactic construction in successive sentences for rhetorical effect. So, how does parallelism work? The primary idea that you will have to keep in mind when using words, phrases, clauses, and sentences is that it should be balanced throughout the sentence, such as a balanced arrangement can be achieved by repeating the same syntactic forms and structure. Now, why should the same structure be used throughout? This is a doubt that might arise. Well, It is because all the elements mentioned in the sentence are equally important. In order to write such sentences, there are few rules you should follow. So here they are. Rule number one: when providing a list of items within a sentence, mention all of them in the same syntactic form. Rule number two: when listing out points, make sure they are in the same structure. Rule number three: when mentioning a series of actions in a sentence, see to it that all of them are written in the same verb forms. If two or more phrases or clauses mentioning similar or contrasting ideas are used in the same sentence, see to it that they have the same syntactic structure. And that's it for rule number four. A common rule when applying parallelism in sentences is the usage of commas to separate similar or constructing words, phrases, and clauses. When use parallel structure. Knowing when to use parallelism is as important as knowing how to use it. Read on to learn where and when the parallel structure is applied in sentences. When you are connecting two or more phrases or clauses using coordinating conjunctions. So, for example, the sentence, I will be going to meet my friends in Bangalore and also visit my cousins on the way. When you are making of correlative conjunctions to connect two or more phrases and clauses. So, for instance, the sentence, if came home early, we can have a dinner together. When comparing two or more phrases or clauses with words like than and as. So, for example, we would rather lie under the night sky than sleep in a small tent. Notice the use word than when comparing or listing multiple courses of action in a sentence. So, for example, online classes and work from home have become the new normal since the dawn of the pandemic. So, to further understand, here are the examples of parallelism in sentences. Take a look at the following examples to have a much better, clearer understanding of each of the rules. So, using parallelism is the use of similar structure in related words, clauses, or phrases. It creates a sense of rhythm and balance with a sentence. As readers, we often correct faulty parallelism or a lack of parallel structure intuitively because an unbalanced sentence sounds awkward and poorly constructed. So read the following sentences aloud. Kelly had to iron, do the washing, and shopping before her parents arrived. Driving a car requires coordination, patience, and to have a good eyesight. Hmm. Ali prefers jeans to wearing a suit. All of these sentences contain faulty parallelism. Although they have factually correct, the construction is clunky and confusing. In the first example, three different verse forms are used. In the second and third examples, the writer begins each sentence by using a noun, the word coordination and jeans, but ends with a phrase, to have a good eyesight or wearing a suit. Now, read the same three sentences that have correct parallelism. Kelly had to do ironing, washing, and shopping before her parents arrived. Driving a car requires coordination, patience, and good eyesight. Ali prefers wearing jeans to wearing a suit. When these sentences are written using parallel structure, they sound more aesthetically pleasing because they are balanced. Repetition of grammatical construction also minimizes the amount of work. the reader has to do to decode the sentences. This enables the reader to focus on the main idea in the sentence and not in how the sentence is put together. So here's the tip to create a parallelism structure. A simple way to check for parallelism in your writing is to make sure you have paired nouns with nouns, verbs with verbs, prepositional phrases with prepositional phrases, and so on. Underline each element in a sentence and check that the corresponding elements uses the same grammatical form. So in creating parallelism, using coordinating conjunctions, when you connect two clauses using a coordinating conjunctions is the fun boys. For and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Make sure that the same grammatical structure is used on each side of the conjunction. Take a look at the following example. When I walk the dog, I like to listen to music and talking to friends on the phone. That is a faulty parallelism. When I, wo- when I walk the dog, I like listening to music and talking to friends on the phone. And that is how to write it. The first sentence uses two different verb forms, to listen and talking. In the second sentence, the grammatical construction in each side of the coordinating conjunction and is the same, creating a parallel sentence. The same technique should be used for joining items or lists in a series. This committee needs to decide whether the company should reduce its workforce, cut its benefits, or lowering workers' wages. Hmm. This is how to write it. This committee needs to decide whether the company should reduce its workforce, cut its benefit, or lower workers' wages. The first sentence contains two items that use the same verb construction, reduce and cut, and a third item that uses a different verb forms, lowering. The second sentence uses the same verbs construction in all three items, creating a parallel structure. So, creating parallelism using done or asked. When you are making a comparison, the two items being compared should have a parallel structure. Comparing two items without using parallel structure can lead to confusion about what is being compared. Comparisons frequently use the words done or asked, and the items on each side of these comparison words should be parallel. Take a look at the following example. Swimming in the ocean is much tougher than a pool. Swimming in the ocean is much tougher than swimming in a pool. In the first sentence, the elements before the comparison word done are not equal to the elements after the comparison word. It appears that the writer is comparing an action swimming with a noun a pool. In the second sentence, the writer uses the same grammatical construction to create a parallel structure. This clarifies that an action is being compared with another action. To create some instances of faulty parallelism, it may be necessary to add or delete words in a sentence. A brisk walk is as beneficial to your health as going for a run. That's wrong. Going for a brisk walk is as beneficial to your health as going for a run. And that is correct. In this example, it is necessary to add the verb phrase going for to the sentence in order to clarify the act of walking is being compared to the act of running. Creating parallelism using correlative conjunctions. A correlative conjunction is a paired conjunction that connects two equal parts of a sentence and shows the relationship between them. Common correlative conjunctions include the following: either, or, not only, but also, neither nor, whether or, rather than, both, and. Correlative conjunctions should follow the same grammatical structure to create a parallel sentence. Take a look at the following. We can neither wait for something to happen, nor can we take evasive action. Hmm, that is wrong. We can neither wait for something to happen, nor take evasive action, and that is correct. When using a correlative conjunction, the words, phrases, or clauses following each part should be parallel. In the first sentence, the construction of the second part of the sentence does not match to the construction of the first part. In the second sentence, omitting needless words and matching verb constructions create a parallel structure. Sometimes, rearranging a sentence corrects faulty parallelism. So, how to create parallelism? Here's a handy trick for testing parallelism. Rewrite the sentence for each element that should be parallel. For example, a sentence with a parallel construction makes your writing effective. A sentence with parallel construction makes your writing classy. A sentence with parallel construction makes your writing certain to impress anyone who reads your work. Effective, classy, and certain are all adjectives. Even though certain to impress anyone who reads your work is a mouthful compared to the other two, each sentence element is the same parts of speech. That makes the sentence balanced and therefore parallel. Parallelism mistakes, lack of parallelism, can happen in a lot of ways, but the mistake is usually clear enough to make your wins when you hear it. Read on for the most common parallelism problems you'll encounter and how to avoid them. Another one is verb forms. Olympic athletes usually like practicing, competing, and to eat ice cream sandwiches. In this sentence, practicing and competing are gerunds, verbs functioning as nouns, and to eat is an infinitive. It sounds pretty awkward, right? Just like being an athlete with a sweet tooth. Instead, Olympic athletes usually like practicing, competing, and eating ice cream sandwiches. Or, Olympic athletes usually like to practice, compete, and eat ice cream sandwiches. Note that you don't need to repeat the two in each instance of the infinitive form of the verb, as long as the form of the verb is the same in all three cases. You're good to go. Another one is nouns versus verbs. For dinner, we like lamb chops to fry Brussels sprouts. Lamb chops is a noun. Brussels sprouts is a noun too, but to fry is a verb. For dinner, we like lamb chops and Brussels sprouts. Or, for dinner, we like to grill lamb chops and fry Brussels sprouts. Delicious. Noun number. Public transit such as buses or a train can help reduce air pollution. Hmm? Multiple buses, one train? That's not going to solve any environmental issues. Here's a better solution. Public transit, such as buses or a train, can help reduce air pollution. More mismatched parts of speech The detective deftly and with pizzas outline how the crime and have been committed. What's the adverb of pizzas? Great question. Both thriftly adverb and with pizzas, a prepositional phrase, need to be the same part of a speech for this sentence to be properly parallel. And if pizzazzelli isn't a word, that means two nouns are needed. He decided to cover the gowns in sequence and with deftness and pizzas. The detective outlined how the crime had been committed. Subject matter. Had a steak for dinner. Huh? Unless being a fabulous designer is a recipe for steak. These two actions don't seem to have much in common. Parallelism in subject matter means that everything discussed in a sentence should have at least some amount of clarity and relatedness. So here's the correct sentence. He decided to cover the gown in sequins and to celebrate he had a steak for dinner. Or he was hungry after he covered the gown in a sequence, so he had a steak for dinner. The possible connections are endless, but for a proper parallelism, that connection must be clear to the reader. The common saying, parallelism helps make your writing as neat as a geometry equation, specifically one with parallel lines. To keep your writing line up straight, don't forget to keep your eyes peeled for these elements. Matching parts of speech, noun number, subject matter, rhetoric. You know what they say? You win some, you lose some, but use parallelism correctly in your writing and speech, and you're that much more likely to say, I came, I saw, I conquered. And that's it, guys. Thank you for listening and watching, and I hope you understand a lot. Goodbye.
On April 28, 2024, I was tasked with delivering a visual demo on the topic of redundancy and parallelism in sentences error. As our teacher, Ms. Rosalie Valdez, wanted us to cover this important grammar concept before the final exam. With the exam schedule, we had limited time to prepare. However, as a student, I was determined to create an engaging and informative presentation that would help my classmates or the audiences understand and identify the common errors. I began by researching the definition and examples to further elaborate on the topic. Then, I had to create my PowerPoint presentation before recording my video. I started off by explaining what redundancy is, which is basically when we use too many words to say the same thing. I gave examples to show how using extra words can be unnecessary. Throughout the presentation, I pointed out common redundant phrases to avoid and explain why they are redundant. I also included exercises so my classmates could practice spotting redundancy in sentences. And I made sure to give them feedback and explanation for each answer to help them understand the topic better. On the other hand, I started by showing a series of images of humans to demonstrate parallelism. We found that the three human images had something in common, and they all showed similar human actions. This set the stage for our discussion on parallelism in English grammar. As we talk about parallelism, I realized that it is an important part of good writing. Parallelism means using similar grammatical structures for two or more phrases, clauses, or sentences within a sentence. This makes the sentence clearer and more engaging. The rule of parallelism, like using the same powerful listed items, making sure similar ideas have similar structures, and using commas to separate similar parts are important to learn. Through the visual demo, I demonstrated how faulty parallelism can lead to awkward and confusing sentences. But by rewriting the sentence, we achieve correct parallelism, resulting in a more aesthetically pleasing and balanced sentence. One of the strengths of my visual demo is the ability to illustrate the importance of redundancy and parallelism in creating a clear and effective sentences. By providing samples of faulty and corrected redundancy error and parallelism, I was able to point out the redundancy is using words with the same meaning, and parallelism is not just a grammatical rule, but a tool for enhancing the overall quality of writing. The visual representation of redundancy and parallelism also helped me to make the concept more accessible and engaging for the audiences. However, I faced some challenges during the visual demo. One of the weaknesses was the difficulty in conveying the nuances of redundancy and parallelism through a visual format. At times, I felt that the visual materials and examples may not have been sufficient to fully illustrate what redundancy and parallelism is. Additionally, the lack of face to face interaction made it challenging to interact with the audiences, understanding and respond to their questions. But, despite these challenges, the visual demo taught me the value of creativity and adaptability in teaching. I learned to think outside the box and find ways to convey complex concepts in a visually engaging manner. The experience also highlighted the importance of clear and concise communication, as well as the need to be flexible and responsive to the audiences or to my classmates' needs. Overall, delivering this visual demo on redundancy and parallelism in sentences was a valuable learning experience for me. It challenged me to organize my thoughts, create engaging visuals, and effectively communicate complex grammar concepts to my peers. While there were some limitations due to time conflicts, I believe that the presentation was successful in helping my audiences or my classmates identify and correct redundancy and parallelism in their writing. My visual demo teaching on redundancy and parallelism in sentences error was a valuable learning experience for both myself and the audience, or to my classmates, through the use of images, examples, and explanation. I was able to convey the importance of redundancy and parallelism in effective writing. While there were some challenges, the experience taught me the importance of creativity, adaptability, and trust in my own ability.